Guys, good morning.
Shine.
How's everybody doing today? Now, I want to make sure you guys know that you should definitely follow us, dtitrader.com/telegram. This morning in the TNT channel, Tom posted out not only pivot number 6855, but also told you to watch crude, USO, and gold. Gave you the Magic Five, which included, and let me just go back and make sure I got this, GLD, SLV, GDX, QQQ, and KGC. We've seen these markets respond. Those, crude and gold set their highs, Tom, before I'm looking at the time that you were posting, which was early this morning, I
Yeah,
think
and
about
and
five.
see that's the issue is, Chuck, you got a war market and you're going to see rapid. That's old right now because after you get to the opening this morning, you got the opening price, and I think with this kind of war footing, for example, TLT. If you're in TLT, Sean, get out. Don't be frustrated. It happens. Okay. Uh, it should have got out at 39 cents. I think that's in the instructions somewhere, but just get out. TLT did not work today. Okay. Uh,
Yeah, but a lot of these markets did work, right? So
well, they
what
work. Yeah, but they work. But the point I'm trying to make, Chuck, is what I told people on Friday. You want to give this market a little breathing room on a day like this. If we did go to war, which we did go to war, okay, and the market zoomed, silver at one point was 97, but you have to get up early, to catch it. You know, it's one thing to be aware that the markets are going to move, especially in the highly volatile silver and gold market. The other thing to keep in mind is that as you get into the day, you got a lot of misinformation coming out and you get a little confusion. That's why I like to watch it. And it is a Monday too. That's the other thing you got to keep in mind.
yeah,
So I think that, like bonds, for example, for TLT, hey, at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, bonds futures were at 119, they're 117.14. You see the difference that happened from Europe opening to where we are right now. So the market did go up. It did go up big time, but they reversed it, and that's what happens in this kind of market. I think that sort of really argues for you've got to make targeted moves. Let me give you another example. You would think that RTX Raytheon would just be blasting higher, and higher. But early it was at 214, and Raytheon is at 211. It's dropped $3. So I think what you're finding is a lot of emotions in the market right now. And that's why I like to give it a little bit of time. Patience will pay. And, like silver, somebody just pointed out silver was at 85, now it's 79. When you look at it, you probably didn't pay attention, was it 84 and 85, but now you're paying attention because it's at 79. I pay attention to all the numbers because I realize that these markets can move that way. Okay. And Sean, contact Roe at DTI Trader. He'll take you through the numbers. Okay.
all right. And as always, you can always track dtitrader.com/YouTube. Let's go ahead, and you've already talked about a little bit of market stuff, Tom, but whenever we're talking about markets, we do have to make sure we put this risk disclaimer out there. There is a very high degree of risk involved in trading. You and you alone are going to be responsible for the decisions you make in trading, whether you're following us or not. So make sure you make the right decisions, do your own research, figure out what risks that you're capable of assuming, and make the judgments. We'll certainly be there to hold your hand, but ultimately, these are your calls. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. And let's talk about some of the major news that's affecting the market. It seems pretty simple in one point. It's Iran. We look at metals. Gold opened March at 53.60, silver at 95.935, crude at 75. Silver and crude have backed up a little bit. In fact, all those metals, as Tom is saying, You get some exuberance coming in, some reaction to the market, and then some settling out. We'll see where everything goes. Now, for the first day of March, the E-mini S&P opened at 68.20. We're trading a little bit above that right now. The Nasdaq at 24,682.50, the Dow at 48,451, and Russell futures opened the month of March at 2608.8 and have continued in March just like they did in January and in February. Very strong small caps going on. Economic news, including ISM. We get some ISM this morning. We'll get some more on, I believe, Wednesday. ADP employment report comes out on Wednesday, and then at the end of the week, the employment situation reports on Friday. So there is some economics to focus on, and we'll definitely focus on that. In addition to everything else got going on, it's Iran, it's the first day of March, and it's the economic news. That's the news shaping the market. So let's see. Next up, we're going to bring in Tom and get a little bit more of your opinion on this market, Tom.
Yeah, first thing I want to give everybody a couple tickers to look at that at some point should be buys. GLD, I'd use 492. I want you to type that in there. GLD 492. SLV, I'd use 82 and a half, 82 and a half. GDX, I think above 116.55, 116.55. And I would focus on crude oil. From crude oil's perspective, it hit its high last night at the opening, 75. I would ignore everything about crude unless you saw it go back above 75. And what I mean by ignore everything, I saw somebody this morning, you had to look real close, crude going to 100, and then they had a question mark in real tiny print out beside it, but it looked like crude was at 100 the way they presented it. And I said, crude's not at 100. Anyway, that was the way that was being presented. So 75 is the number on crude. The VIX above 2280, run for the hills if you see it go back above 2280 on the VIX. Did you get all those numbers, Jonathan?
I believe so. I put 4 in there already, and then 2280 on VIX.
All right, so let me give you some. I'm going to give you some numbers that are resistance to certain stocks. Apple, I would use for Apple. I would use a 265.55 resist. No, excuse me, I told you wrong. 270. 270 is resistance for Apple. Amazon, I would use right at resistance 208. 208. Google 310 as resistance. MU 419. 419 for MU. NVIDIA, this is one for you. 188's resistance. Of course, 175 support. 188's resistance. Palantir is, out of all the stocks I checked, Palantir is the only stock that is performing above its resistance since this morning. And Palantir right now is 145. 145. So its actual resistance was 133. So these are numbers that I would use to tell you that, hey, we do have a reversal in place. Everybody got those numbers? You start getting above those numbers, then you're going to have a pretty good reversal to trade, okay? So I wanted to give you those numbers. I had them written out here as a place that you might want to consider. Now, we know 6902 on the S&P was the yearly open, and that would probably equate to all those stocks I just gave you starting to break their resistance. We start getting above that, okay? Now, silver and gold, I think gold is going to be a natural winner. And what I mean by that is if the market goes up, I don't know if you know this or not, gold correlates about 88% with an up move if it goes up. If the market goes down, I think gold's going to go higher after this correction. And I gave you a number to look at it, 492 on gold, just above that, okay, on gold. Other than that, I use the term patience will pay. I will be very careful until I get to the last hour today. Once I get to read for the last hour, you can have some pretty decent plays in the last hour into the next morning. And so we'll try to play some of those this week. But I wanted to cover those numbers. And, it's sort of an interesting position everybody should be in, mostly cash, maybe holding silver and gold stock. If you find yourself with stocks that you hold, I would use this particular point to maybe do some married puts later on today. So if you want to hold it, that's the way I would do it. The key is to come out of this week with some good stocks out there. I do will tell you my gold mutual fund we made was performing very well, even in this little correction that we got in gold and silver. So that's my opinion. Now today after the close, I'll release what I call my weekly newsletter. It's $9.99 for a year. Pretty popular because after I've seen today, I'll throw some numbers in there that might help you. So, if not a member, you'll probably ought to join that. You get it every Monday. John, when does that go out? About 5 o'clock this afternoon?
Yeah, usually we talk right after the cash market closes, Tom, and then I issue it as soon as I can get it out at that point.
How do they get it? Is there a room they go to print it, or what do they? I mean, how do they get it?
It's on the member site, but we send a notice out to Telegram and email that it's ready for review. When you get that notice, you can just head over to the members area and find it in the T-Bus Weekly Trade Letter area.
Okay.
Pretty clear.
Perfect. Now, welcome to Train and Trade. And again, we've got a certain way we kick off every month. Nothing changes because we're on the war footing, right? So because we're on the war footing that we're on, it becomes even more important to have these numbers like the ones I just gave you. But it's Monday, and usually on a Monday at the start of a week, on the start of a month, is a day we sit back and watch things. That's not going to change much other than the fact we will pick out some isolated opportunities. Now, my T&T room is very active around the clock. We trade a lot of different things in there at certain times. Chuck gave you an example of some early this morning. DTItrader.com. It's $200 a month, but it's a way to stay in touch around the clock. I follow the news. Jonathan and Chuck helped me manage that room. It's a pretty good room to stay in tune with. All trades we do in here will be tracked there. We have a resource page. Winning the Day Trading Game, my book, the audio version. We had a lot of fun having a little quiz on that. Buck was the proud winner of a $5,000 prize, and he's taking advantage of it today. White paper book right there. Click it. YouTube page. We got great training there. You got to understand the language of the market. And so if you're new, this is a great, I guess, primer for understanding words that we use, the language of the market. My penalty tapes, an old recording I did or old presentation I did many years ago, is still viable. You ought to listen to it. And of course, if you're new to options, we do a lot of options. There's a book out there I've been recommending for about 15 years for people that were new to options. They get into the simplicity of it, but it's really good for people that have trouble with the concept. Optionsplaybook.com. It's totally free, I think, on the web, but I actually bought the book. I got a copy of it over here if I'm holding a class, I usually bring it and somebody asks me a question rather than go into detail. Say, hey, read this page here, and then ask me the question. Really is a great little resource. Optionsplaybook.com. Now I got the defense sector. I looked at a couple ETFs this morning, ITA and XAR. Are y'all familiar with those two stocks? ITA and XAR. There'll be a play this month in those. So try to get familiar with them, put it on your watch list, and I'll be watching it, and we'll see if we can find us an opportunity in those two ETFs. If you look at ITA, it's U.S. Aerospace and Defense, clearly in a buy on our MTI by DTI. If you look at how much it's up for the year, it's something that we need to be looking at. Sort of a real fast and dirty way to take advantage. XAR, a spider, S&P 500, Aerospace and Defense ETF. It's actually done pretty good this year if you compare that with ITA. This again in a buy. You can look over to the left, takes that out. We probably got a good month here in March for those two. We'll add it to our 3-day algo and follow along there. RTX, this is always my go-to stock. You got to think about it just mathematically. RTX Raytheon has a way of always going up during these kind of events. And we got the setup there. We'll definitely have it included on our March 3-day algo to keep up with it. And then when it sets up, I'll let you know when it's time to fire, so to speak. Okay, this is day 1 of March. This is a great way to kick off the month because anybody's new can really learn how to do things. Trade day 1 of March, how to prepare and process. First, let's talk about our 3-day algo and why it's so important to set up our foundation for the month. So what is the 3-day algo? It's the highest high, lowest low for the first 3 trading days of the month. I gave you a couple numbers that we went higher to today. That is day 1. Above the high sets up a bullish reading for the month. Below sets up a bearish move. We let the numbers dictate what we do, okay? S&P and NASDAQ are 2 indexes we'll follow. Look for that signal up and down. Remember, the S&P futures, 75% of all stocks will follow that. Now, this is the part that some of those that are not familiar or those that are familiar are to pay attention to. Our study for the past 5 years indicated if the SPY opened above the FTD algo high any day during a month, there was an 87% odds that the month finished higher. Now, you heard me say this last night, okay? Every conflict has led to higher prices down the road by the end of the year. Keep that in the back of your mind, no matter how ugly the market got, okay? That's a statistic that goes back to Pearl Harbor, folks. Now remember, around 75% of all stocks will follow the S&P. That's another rule I've been preaching for years for people to latch on to and make money. That's why I follow the S&P. That's why I gave you a pivot number of 68.55 for today. Help you with your short-term time. Now let's look at our March stocks right now with the 3-day algo and look at the initial setup. Jonathan, you take it from here.
Tom, we might adjust what you want on the spreadsheet, but right now I've got the January open, the February open, the March open, the current price, so we can just quickly compare current price to those three opens. And then, of course, this is a running day one high and low. That will change as we go through. In fact, I'm about to update it now before we talk any further about it.
Now you update this every day for people. So if they get the link, they can follow along without any effort on their part. And you got a way of saving it under favorites. That way they can just check it each day, right?
Right. This is the same spreadsheet as we had last month. The link doesn't change. If you can't access the spreadsheet from the slides I posted earlier, I will post the spreadsheet right now in the Zoom chat. Just click on the link in the Zoom chat and it should open up on your computer. Once it opens up, top right, there's a little star you click on, which will bookmark it to your browser. If you do that, it will, like if I open up another tab, it will have a bookmark up here at the top, or you might have to click the arrow if you've used bookmarks. And if you have to click the arrow, then obviously you know how bookmarks work because you've done it a lot of times. But that's how I would do that. Just click the star, bookmark it. You'll be good. If you want a copy of the February spreadsheet, you're gonna have to email me, Row@DTI Trader, and I'll get that to you as soon as I can. Just shoot an email, Row@DTI Trader. I'll send you that. I always make a copy. So, but this is the March spreadsheet.
Bob says, could you put the VIX futures on the top? I think putting VIX futures up there would help us too. That's a good idea, Bob.
It's a great idea. I sure wish the roadmap could carry the VIX futures. I shouldn't say roadmap, the Schwab data feed. I wish they carried the VIX futures. Okay.
You update this from the Schwab data feed or from our roadmap?
Using the Schwab data feed, which runs the roadmap software.
Gotcha.
Is how I update that.
You have to use $sign to get it, or
no, the VIX futures flat out, they don't carry it, but $ VIX they do.
Okay. We'll keep up with it.
Which is probably, it's not a better symbol, but probably I think more people follow that than the VIX futures probably. Certainly not better. But
so one thing about it, once we get, and by the way, after the third day, folks, this is a great spreadsheet because it'll tell you long or short, and then we take it from there into the current market. Pretty cool what we've done here with the 3-day algo. Would you say, let me ask the people that are using this with me, this is a pretty good organized way to figure out where you put your money for the month, isn't it? No, Bob, no, Rob, out, out.
Yeah, /VX is definitely available on TOS. It's just for whatever reason the language connection between TOS and the roadmap doesn't jive, if you will. Anyhow, $VIX will be easy.
David says, yes, it's free. I wouldn't let that be the criteria to keep me from making money, but in this case, this is a service that we provide to our students. So valuable. So valuable. A lot of work, but we've got it down to a science with our updates. We update it just, sometimes we do it during the day, but most times we do it at Train and Trade, so you get a fresh view every day at 11. Another reason to be here. Okay.
So as the first 3 days go along, you'll see the spreadsheet might change some. Like after we get past tomorrow, I'll probably combine the first 2 days into one column, that sort of thing. But eventually we'll have the first 3 days high and low. And there's a couple columns over here that I'll drag over. So this is how the spreadsheet will look eventually, where it'll have the 3-day high and low. It'll have the midpoint from those 3 days. And then we're comparing the current price to the high and low from the first 3 days. And if we're above the high and low, it'll say long. If we're below it, it'll say short over here in this column. You shouldn't use these columns yet because we're not past the first 3 days. That's why I've dragged them over to the right so you can't see it here.
Right. We put a big emphasis, folks, if you're new at DTI. Let me just tell you the way I've traded so much in my career. And I looked back on it and I said,
The chat
said
is an
something.
idea here.
Did you hear me? Miscommunication with Jonathan.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think we froze up for just a second there, but everything seems fine now. Let's keep going.
Well, hold on, Chuck. I want to make sure I make this point. Only trade when the odds are in your favor. Therefore, we make targeted trades in this highly sensitive market. Okay. Did everybody hear that? Give me a yes if everybody heard what I said. There's a yes. There's a yes. Okay, good. I think Jonathan's having internet issues. Now,
Hey, Tom, can you hear me now?
Our goal is to let the numbers tell us what to do over the next 3 days. In other words, we take our bias out, okay? We take our bias out and let the numbers speak for themselves. Leave those emotions on the sideline. We'll frame March as it has every month for the past 5 years, and we will be off to the money bank, we'll call it, once we frame it. Now, I usually exercise patience the first 3 days. I look for targeted plays during the first 3 days of the month. I am especially looking, I'm taking it even further today. Those targeted plays will happen in the second half of the day. I mean, think about this. Let's just take a hypothetical. Let's say I look at the market and I say, hey, it's going higher, right? That's because it's going higher right now. Everybody got that, right? So you go in and go long. And then all of a sudden you get to RB4, which is at 2 o'clock, and now you got a break to the downside. You see how people lose money in situations like this? These trends are not holding. I mean, when we started this presentation, just to put this in perspective, when we started this presentation, the QQQ was at 606. Now it's at 604. You know what that does to an option on the QQQ if you got long?
Raiders it. It craters it.
It craters that option. So therefore, let's be smart. Let's learn from my mistakes I made where you don't make it. Okay? Believe me, if I put a trade on, the odds will be in our favor. Okay. Here's a few tickers to give you an overview of what to watch for the week. VIX is a fear gauge. Greater than 20, the market's on the defense. If the VIX is rising, it's a sure sign we'll see lower prices in stocks. Okay? Let me point out something. The VIX right now is at 2125. It was at 2085 when we started this presentation. See how it's rising? Look at the S&P coming down. That's how close they're related. You got to watch this. This is a great index to watch. Now, I prefer to track VIX futures on TOS or Tasty Trade with the symbol /VX. Another common ticker is $VIX. I will tend to look at /VX. That's the futures. Futures always go first. Let me give you a reflex. Let's say that the VIX all of a sudden took out its high of the day, which was 22.8. I'd get short. Everybody understand how I would use that VIX? I'd get short if that event occurred. I'm not saying it has, but if it did today, that's an example. Crude oil. Last night, this is what's driven me crazy. Last night, crude hit 75.33. From that point, anybody that bought crude all night long, all morning long, crude's going to 100, all that. Well, guess what, folks? Crude went from 75 down to 69. You think you can make money hearing all these people that don't trade, listening to them? They're going to get you messed up. That's the number you watch, 75.33. That's worth a lot of money to you. So pay attention, 75.33. And a couple ways to track crude, /CL or /April futures /CLJ26. Another common ticker is USO. USO has had a range of 88 to 86 if you want the numbers for it. $82, the past 30-day high was 82, past 30-day low was 71. If you look at USO today in the current market, it's trading 86.58 with a low of 85, a high around 88. That's how much it jumped, okay, on the opening though. It didn't open, okay, until this morning when it opened, and that's why people get they lose money. I want you to know what to listen to. Okay? The number is crude futures 75.33. That's the number. Treasury bonds. Treasury bonds should be a buy because they fell so much from 119, which was a new high, and now my trigger price on treasury bonds. They're 117.13 right now. They've come down. Keep your eye on those toward the end of the day, okay? Should be a play. Be with me. It will be a play, I think, okay? Especially if you trade TLT. The outstanding program for that, trading bonds, is the anchor program. It's not going to be right every time, but it's been booking winter after winter. Today it did. That's okay. That's part of trading. The next one should be good. Remember, E-mini, I track it over everything else. 75% of all stocks follow it. Futures will lead stocks. This makes track the S&P futures absolute must, in my opinion. Last night, Europe opened. ES went down to 67.68. Remember, I gave you a support, 67.50 to 66.50. That's still a support of this market. Keep that in mind. We'll go back down and visit that number from last night. The question is when. Well, we'll be able to tell when the odds increase we're headed that way by looking at the reference bars. I think being overweight gold is the place to be. That's what I think. I believe gold will go up if the market goes up. I'm talking about the general stock market goes up. I believe gold will go up in the time of uncertainty. When that VIX takes out 2280, gold's going to be rising. I think it's a winner no matter which way you go. I think gold and gold miners will be my primary target sometime this week. I've made a lot of money in the last few years trading these stocks. I think we're getting ready to make a lot more. That's what I think. I can be wrong. Numbers got to justify it, but I'm going to be there if they set up. Silver should also trend higher, but I believe gold is a better play for us this week in the market. Okay? I think gold is a better play. Now, here's a question everybody here. I know I don't have any of these positions, but if you've got it, you've got to ask this question. Do you have stock positions that are losing value? Anybody got any of those? You have to make a decision. The decision is, do you want to keep losing value? I think you will if you stay with them, or you can hedge yourself. Okay? If you hedge yourself, I would use, for every 100 shares, I would use a Delta 50. I'd go out about 21 days to hedge myself because that's a reasonable time to expect this will be over by buying puts. That's called a married put. So your choice is either go to cash, I'm telling you today, once you look at your prices, or you hedge your position. I prefer this concept as a way to hedge stocks you want to hold. The strategy of married put is very simple, straightforward. It consists of buying or owning 100 shares of stock and buying a put option for protection or insurance. It is called a married put as long as you have the ratio of 1 to 1. In other words, if I have 100 shares, I need one put to hold those shares. If the stock falls, the protected put will place a floor on the stock at the price of the put. No, I would go Delta 50, Rob, on this type strategy, Delta 50. And if you don't have them, you don't have to put it on to the end of the day, because the end of the day, I mean, this market might go up and down a couple times between then. The end of the day is where you got to have this overnight risk. Everybody understand it? Give me a yes if you know I'm talking about overnight risk. 21 days, Sean, 21 days. Your risk is like an insurance for holding that stock. I prefer cash personally. I want to get that out there. Cash is best. All right. Now let me ask the question. How many people have liked, or how many people so far today have learned something or have a plan to think about during this conflict? Have I accomplished my objective there? I'm getting a lot of yeses. A lot of yeses. All right. Now, who wants to take the other side of this and grow your account? Who would like to grow their account this week? Okay, I got a plan. I want you to listen to me. This is what my plan is. The best way where odds are mostly in your favor is to see the hand they deal during the day. That's why I will be live the last hour of the day. The last hour of the day, I've got a way to do that. I'm calling it Liz. Leveraged income zone, Liz, 3 o'clock. That's the plan. What is Liz? It's my plan each and every day this week, finding opportunities created by the conflict in Iran. I talked about gold. I talked about silver. I talked about defensive stocks, healthcare. I didn't even talk about that. Okay. Kevin says he's got a date with Liz. I do too. Hope he's got a sister, right, Kevin? My plan is very simple. I'm going to watch and I'm going to learn. 21 days, Carrie, 21 days. Let's balance these positions throughout the week so you take most of the opportunities that present themselves. You want to hear about this on YouTube or an online chat room? This is real trading that I do with one-on-one people when they come visit me. They've seen me do it. They know I can do it. I'm going to do it every day from 3 to 4. Many conflicts in a 40-year career I've dealt with. Learned a lot. Now, if you've been around me for very long, okay, I'm going to find a way to make money. Sometimes it takes me a day, sometimes it takes me 2 days, but I'm going to figure out the best way to put odds in our favor. Kevin said, if you're listening to me, you're listening to the right person. Look what he said in the chat room. Thank you, Kevin. Pays off to listen, doesn't it? I think the opportunity is off the charts this week. I hope you're there. And we can't wait. You can't procrastinate on this one, folks. It happens at 3 o'clock today. Liz will take the dance floor at 3 o'clock today. We'll talk about how to allocate capital. That'll be the first step. We'll talk about the opportunities that are teed up after today and where they're going. All the details will come to you. Simple, straightforward. The exact steps I plan to take advantage of this week. How to allocate your capital in this kind of approach. That's important. If I place a live trade, I'll do it with you because I'm going to do the work to tell me to put my money at risk. Might as well share it with you. That's our plan. And I give Adam Mallory credit, okay, because he said we ought to do this. I did it years ago. I said, we'll do it again. On Tuesday, we'll do it again. We'll do setup. We'll be patient. We'll watch. We'll clear out the deck. And then we'll be ready to go at 3 that afternoon. Another opportunity on Tuesday. Each day throughout the rest of this week. I'll get at least 5 trades, maybe more, in the leveraged income zone or Liz. Now, last night we offered this to a huge crowd, had a bunch of people that took us up on it. We wanted to offer it again today. Go to dtitrader.com/Liz, where we can get you into the system and make sure you have access to this train that's leaving the station, I guess, as they say. dtitrader.com/Liz. Is this all the slides we got?
Yes, it is, Tom.
Okay. While we stop the recording, anybody else got any questions about Liz or that I can help you with?